Offensive realism begins with a simple proposition. The international system is anarchic. No world government, no final authority. States must look after themselves. Survival is the first imperative. Power is the currency of survival. And because no state can ever be certain of another's intentions, the rational move is always to maximize power. In this world, cooperation is fragile. Alliances are temporary. Institutions are mirrors. They reflect power. They do not create it. Mearsheimer's realism is not a moral argument. It is a structural one. He does not say the strong should dominate the weak. He says they do. And if you want to understand international politics, you must start with that fact.
And the United States was, of course, the most powerful state on the planet by far during the unipolar moment.
This is where Mearsheimer's insight is most valuable. He does not sugarcoat American power. He describes it plainly. The United States maintains military dominance. It projects force globally. It has a sphere of influence. It will not tolerate rivals in its hemisphere.
And when we are not happy, you do not want to underestimate how nasty we can be. Right? Just ask Fidel Castro.
That is a brutal assessment, but it is also an accurate one. Mearsheimer describes his own country in these terms. He does not flinch. No scholar has explained the mechanics of U.S. hegemony more clearly than John Mearsheimer. And that is why his theory is so compelling. It explains power. It explains hierarchy. It explains why the strong dominate and the weak submit. It explains much of the world. But there is something his theory does not explain. Something that has persisted for decades. Something that should not exist if his theory is correct. Let us look at what the theory cannot see. That is the theory. Now look at the world. But the world has built things the theory cannot name. The European Union is not a state. It has no army, not really. No monopoly on legitimate violence. No sovereign in the traditional sense. 27 nations have pooled sovereignty, not under conquest, but through treaty and law. Offensive realism has no category for this. The EU is a post-state entity, something that exists after the nation-state, not in competition with it. And it is not alone. ASEAN brings together Southeast Asian nations with deep historical rivalries in a framework of dialogue. The UN persists. NATO persists. Mearsheimer does not deny the EU's success. He admits it.
While the EU has been a remarkably successful institution,
but he cannot leave it there. The theory cannot explain a successful institution. So, he must explain it away.
Its success is dependent on NATO keeping the peace in Europe. Turning Marx on his head, the political military institution, here we're talking about NATO, is the base or foundation. And the economic institution, here we're talking about the EU, is superstructure.
The EU becomes dependent. NATO becomes the foundation. And NATO? That is simply the United States by another name.
All of this is to say that absent the American pacifier, not only does NATO as we know it disappears, but the EU will also be undermined in serious ways.
The pacifier. Without it, Europeans would fight. They are infants in the nursery of international politics, dependent on the American nanny. But there's a problem with this logic. If institutions have no independent effect, why does the US need NATO to keep the peace? The pacifier is itself an institution. The theory says institutions do not matter. Yet the explanation relies entirely on one working. The logic is circular. The US keeps the peace. The peace depends on the US. The institution is irrelevant, except when it is essential. And the predictions have not helped. In 1990, Mearsheimer predicted the end of the Cold War would lead to security competition among Europe's major powers. He predicted the EU would fracture. He predicted NATO would dissolve. The EU is still standing. NATO has expanded. The Europeans have not fought. Decades of predictions. Decades of failure. A theory that fails to predict the world it claims to describe and does not adjust. What does it do? It waits. It waits for the world to conform to its logic. But the world does not wait. The EU is still there. ASEAN is still there. Cooperation persists. The contradiction is not hidden. It is on display. The theory cannot see it, but the evidence is unmissable. Mearsheimer presents himself as a neutral observer, the man who tells hard truths that idealists cannot face. But neutrality requires distance from the outcome. A scientist tells you what is. An advocate tells you what should be.
In terms of China, I'm fully in favor of containing China.
That is not a description of what will happen. That is a declaration of what he wants to happen. The laboratory has become a campaign.
And indeed, I think the United States should have good relations with Putin. It's a remarkably foolish policy to push him into the arms of the Chinese. If you are playing balance of power politics and you're interested, as the United States, in containing China, you want Russia on your side of the ledger. But what we have done, in effect, is we have pushed Russia into the arms of the Chinese. This is a remarkably foolish policy.
A physicist does not say, "I am for gravity." A political scientist who declares his preferred strategy has left the laboratory. When a theory reliably produces the policy preferences of its author, every time, we are no longer in science. We are in something else. Notice the pattern.
In terms of China, I'm fully in favor of containing China.
In Washington, he advocates for containing China.
While the EU has been a remarkably successful institution, its success is dependent on NATO keeping the peace in Europe.
In Europe, he warns that without American protection, the EU will collapse.
If you go with China, you want to understand you are our enemy.
In Sydney, he warns Australia of American wrath if they choose wrong. Each time, the theory arrives at the same destination, alignment with American power. Each time, the logic bends to produce that conclusion. Not because the evidence demands it, but because the advocate requires it. In Sydney, addressing an Australian audience, Mearsheimer delivered a warning. Mearsheimer is known for telling hard truths. This is one of them. But let us be clear about what this truth is and what it demands.
If you go with China, you want to understand you are our enemy. You are then deciding to become an enemy of the United States. And that is not going to make us happy. And when we are not happy, you do not want to underestimate how nasty we can be. Right? Just ask Fidel Castro.
He tells Australia, the United States will be ruthless if you choose wrong. That may be true, but when a scholar tells a sovereign nation to fear the power of his own country and to submit to it, is he describing the world or is he trying to shape it? A doctor gives you a diagnosis. He does not threaten you with the disease if you refuse his treatment. The warning is not analysis. It is a threat disguised as a lesson. And the theory that justifies it is not science. It is the language of power demanding obedience. Greek mythology tells of a host named Procrustes. He had an iron bed. Every traveler who stayed with him was forced to fit it exactly. The tall were chopped, the short were stretched. He was a master of making reality conform to his measurements. Mearsheimer argues that all great powers, regardless of their form of government, seek to expand their power. The United States, for much of its existence, has been at war. China has not been to war in decades. It has settled disputes through negotiation. It has joined international institutions. The theory needs China to fit the American pattern. So, evidence is cropped. History is ignored. Difference is erased. This is not a prediction. This is Procruste's bed, a theory forcing reality to conform. And when reality refuses to lie still, the theory pulls harder. The EU exists. ASEAN exists. China exists. A rising power that has not gone to war in decades. Mearsheimer predicted collapse. He predicted conflict. The predictions did not come true. Yet the theory persists. Its author campaigns for the policies it justifies. Which shapes which, the theory or the agenda? If a theory fails to explain the world it claims to describe, why is it still here? The answer is not in the theory. It is in the use of the theory.